Hello everybody, welcome back to IndyCar on the last show of the week. It's Friday the 26th of July and I'm Gordon Ross. Now, if you've been watching social media for the last week or so, you'll know there's an awful lot of things happening at the one time. Many months ago I said that when things were going to come to a head with Brexit and with independence, everything would happen extremely fast and that the British government would move much faster than we expected. Well, here it is. Boris Johnson has said in the next 97 days he's going to introduce 20,000 more policemen. He's going to raise the amount of money being pumped into the education system. He's going to right every wrong. It's going to be a golden age. Everything that is wonderful and utopian in the British idyll is going to happen, and it's all going to be glorious and wonderful. And we should just all chill out and let Boris and his team get on with it. But, and this is the big but, that everything that Boris has said is leading us to a no-deal Brexit. He's actually said it. He said he's going to go into Brussels and he's going to ask them to abolish the backstop, to completely rewrite it, and to come up with a better deal. And the European Union has come back twice now saying utter rubbish, it's not going to happen. So we're in this blustering game of willy waving, you know, as who's the toughest. The European Union has the least to lose. They don't have to give any ground. And Britain knows it, and Boris Johnson knows it as well. And I think most political commentators now have two things that they would predict. One is that we're heading for a no-deal Brexit, and the other one is that there will be a general election sometime in the next few months. There has to be, because Boris Johnson has a majority of just 2 in Parliament. That's not a majority that you can carry such a huge decision with as Brexit. Now, if, as everyone expects, Boris's plan to try and bully and bluster the European Union into rewriting an entire deal, which took almost 3 years to come up with, in the space of 3 months, I think it's just not going to happen. I don't think anybody else thinks it's going to happen either. But these are the lies, and this is the spin, this is the fantasy that Boris is spinning. Last night on Scotland at 7, I examined this with a long-term political expert, Peter my memory for names, Peter Murrow. I hope I've got that right. Anyway, Peter and I discussed this last night. His opinion is virtually the same as everyone else's, that Boris Johnson is talking utter tripe and that none of these things can happen. So we learned today, in fact in the last few hours, that the Conservative Party has registered a new Scottish Conservative Party with the Electoral Commission in Scotland. Now, what I don't have details of at the moment is what the actual name of this new Scottish Conservative Party is, and have they dropped the word unionist? Because if they have, that is significant. If they've dropped the word unionist and just calling it the Scottish Conservative Party, then I think that sends up a little flag that says that the Tory party is not confident that it's going to win any general election where the mandate is for independence, for negotiating the end of the union and its replacement with some kind of trading deal with the rest of the United Kingdom. So it looks as though the British government, the Tory party itself, is hedging its bets. It is playing both ends to the middle at the moment. It's giving us the impression just now that they're not certain whether they would win a general election or even an independence referendum. They certainly are not going to give a Section 30 order for any referendum within the next 25 years, because they've said that. Boris Johnson said, as far as he was concerned, this settles the matter for a generation. Now, it depends on your definition of a generation. I mean, people can have children at the age of about 14 or 15, so it could be 14 or 15 years. But it doesn't matter what the generation definition is, because that was never part of the written agreement. The Edinburgh Agreement said nothing about it being once in a generation, not a single word. And also Boris Johnson fails to understand the claim of right. He doesn't even understand what legislation applies to the constitutional settlement with Scotland, nor does he understand that although Westminster is sovereign in England, the people of Scotland are sovereign in Scotland. It's perfectly legitimate for the Supreme Court in England to say that Westminster is sovereign and Scotland's Parliament is not, because Scotland's Parliament isn't sovereign. Scotland's Parliament was created by the Westminster Parliament. Out of their powers, they gave Scotland some back, and that allowed us to open our Parliament. But the actual devolution settlement does not give sovereignty to Holyrood. But the claim of right does. The claim of right gives not sovereignty to the Parliament or a Queen or anybody like that. It gives sovereignty to the people. It's a democratic right of every person living in Scotland who stays there permanently to decide if they want England to rule Scotland or not, or whether they would like Scotland to change its government and have a completely Scottish government. So we are quite within our rights to hold any kind of ballot that we like. It doesn't have to be a referendum. It could be a general election at Westminster, it could be a general election in Holyrood, or it could be just some kind of plebiscite. It doesn't have to be called a referendum even. It could be an advisory vote. And that would set the standard. The problem is that if we have a referendum, we know that the minority unionist element in Scotland, who will never ever give up their claim to staying part of the union, they would simply boycott it, and that would lower the turnout. And by lowering the turnout, even if we get a majority, the British government would say, well, it was on a 60% turnout or 70% turnout. That's not high enough. And this has been done to us before in 1979. So what will happen? Well, it has to go to a general election, and I think Boris Johnson knows this, and I think the Conservative Party knows this, and I think the reason the Conservative Party is registering a Scottish Conservative Party is because they know that after independence, only Scottish parties that are registered in Scotland will be allowed to put up candidates for the new independent Scottish Parliament. And that is something that I think they have never acknowledged before. But now, if I'm right, that this new Scottish version of the Tory Party, which is registered in Scotland, is being done now, then I would expect that to mean that they are not confident of winning a mandate to keep control of Scotland. So, we're in a situation now where the SNP is being taunted a little bit by Boris Johnson. You will have noticed that Scotland was not mentioned in Boris's speech. It was all about the union and the strength of the union and all of the peoples of these islands pulling together. It's all terribly British. Nothing about anything to do with devolution. We're all pulling together. Everything's going to be wonderful. Boris's golden age will start in 97 days. When in actual fact, what we know will actually happen is it's going to be a gigantic catastrophe, because there will be shortages of food, there will be shortages of medicine, there will be shortages of clean drinking water, because there will not be enough chemicals imported into England to purify the water that we drink. These chemicals do not come from the United Kingdom. And also there will be problems with England's nuclear power stations because of the fact that the governing body for nuclear industry is pan-national, it's international. And there are also sorts of agreements that would need to be reached for the governance and for the transport of nuclear materials to and from the UK. So lots and lots of things are going to go badly wrong as soon as no deal happens. And no deal will happen, because Boris has said that he's going to leave with or without a deal, come what may, regardless of anything else that happens. They're definitely leaving, do or die. That's basically his words. You can take that to the bank. That was the provocation Boris wanted to make to Nicola Sturgeon. I'm going to take us out without a deal. Now put up and shut up, hold your referendum. But if the SNP holds a referendum now, as I said before, it will be boycotted by the Conservative Party, and the Unionist parties generally will club together to boycott it, so that the result is not viewed as legitimate. So what happens next is we hold fire, because we need to wait until everything goes wrong for Boris. There will be eventually a vote of no confidence, because when it emerges that we are definitely heading out of the European Union without a deal, and the crisis is looming large in everybody's minds, moves will be put in place to stop Boris Johnson, either by Parliament or by senior members of his own party. Something will happen, but there will be a stop put to it. And when that happens, there will be a vote of confidence or no confidence in the government. And with a majority of just 2 people, it's not going to be won. Because if at that point everybody is in uproar going, it's going to be a disaster, and Boris knows this, there will be a vote of no confidence. He will go back to the country and say, either vote for me and the Conservative Party and a Brexit at any cost, or we will repeal Article 50. Now that would be the Conservatives' position, and they would probably lose that election. But who would win it? Because the Lib Dems and the Labour Party are very weak at the moment. The Lib Dems are strengthening, the Labour Party is on the carpet in bits, and we have the presence of Nigel Farage's Brexit Party. Now the Brexit Party could hold the balance of power, and we could be back into Brexit again afterwards. So we would be no further forwards. Is it possible the SNP would hold the whip hand in deciding who governed the country? Would there be a coalition with Labour? I don't think so. I don't think the Labour Party would wear it, and I don't think the SNP would trust Labour as far as they could throw them. So again, we have a problem. But if the SNP makes this general election, which is almost certainly coming up now, purely about independence, and they insert that in massive big letters of fire at the beginning of their mandate, which says vote for the SNP is a vote for independence, for the ending of the union. Nothing else matters. This is our one platform. And if the Green Party makes their platform exactly the same, then I believe we would take at least 56 seats, at least the same number of seats we took in 2015. We lost the impetus in 2015 when we had the high watermark of support for independence. At that very moment, we knew we had been robbed, we knew the referendum had been rigged, the people turned out by the millions and won a tremendous majority at Westminster, the highest ever recorded for the SNP, and then we squittered it away over the next few years. It was wasted. Now we have the opportunity to do this once more. This time, let's not waste it. Let's get ourselves together with the Green Party, with the Socialists, and with anybody else who wants independence, whether they are party members of other parties or not. Let's get it done. Everybody needs to get into the frame of mind for a general election now. Boris Johnson is going to try and wrong foot us by moving faster than we do. I did warn about this in the past. So we're on the brink now. We're almost there. But a referendum, nah, it's not going to happen now. We know it's not going to happen. It was always a ginormous red herring that was swimming about in front of everybody, and it was being fed tidbits every week by the SNP and others to keep it alive. But basically, the idea of a referendum is dead. It has gone to meet its maker, you know. It's bereft of life. It rests in peace. It has run down the curtain and joined the choir invisible. It is a dead red herring now. We need now to gear up for general election. The Tories are doing it. The Tories are preparing the ground for losing the general election. Now that's a very interesting little snippet, this idea of them registering a new party in Scotland. Gives you some idea of how confident the Conservative Party is. Now again, there are always provocations and we mustn't jump too soon, but as soon as the general election is called, that's what needs to happen. This is the only way we are going to get ourselves to the negotiating table with the English government to renegotiate our arrangements with England, to end the 300-year-old union which no longer is fit for its purpose, and to start a new chapter in the history of the British Isles where Scotland and England, trading together as separate countries, can coexist quite happily. And there's no reason why we cannot do that. And there's also no reason why we cannot share resources on a fair basis, or sell resources to each other at a favourable price. But the future for Brexit land, for England and Wales, might be a golden age in their terms, but for Scotland it would be a disaster. Our golden age is yet to come, and our plans for that golden age are very, very different. Nobody should fear independence now. Independence is not the risky option anymore. It's now the safe option. In fact, it's now the only safe option. It's the only escape route that we have from what is about to happen to Scotland. And everybody knows this now. Even the Conservatives know it. So take heart, be of good cheer, get yourselves down to Campbelltown for the march there. Whether it's all under one banner or not is immaterial. The point is that people turn up. I've said this many times, quoting Woody Allen. History is written by the people who turned up. If we turn up, we change the course of events. If we sit at home and say, oh, well, I can't be bothered doing that because so-and-so is arguing with somebody else, it's never going to happen. It's time for unity, and unity is the one thing that Scotland needs right now more than any other time in its history. I'm off for the weekend now. I will talk to you all again, I think, on Sunday, and we'll see what other interesting events have happened in the last 48 hours when we get to Sunday. Have a great day. Have a nice weekend. I'll see you Sunday. Bye-bye.